When it comes to money, certain financial regrets are extremely common and can easily be avoided. In the video today, we're going to be looking at the top 5 most common financial regrets and learn how to avoid them. Starting with number 5 is not saving enough for your child's education. Now let's face it, going to college is crazy expensive, but it can also be an important part of your career. If higher education is something that both you and your child has in mind, consider opening a 529 plan, which is a college savings plan that offers tax and other benefits as long as the money is used on education. I'll put links down in the description to learn more. Moving on to number 4 is taking on too much student loan debt. Now let me tell you, every dollar of student loans that you take out is a massive pain when it's time to repay it. And yet, a lot of people seem to not be too worried about borrowing for the sake of education, as if it's guaranteed that you'll pay it back later with your crazy future income. But if you're about to go through college, you should really be trying your best to only borrow the least amount possible. Now, scholarships, grants, federal aid, and part-time jobs can all help in reducing the total amount you need to borrow, but the number one piece of advice I could give here is to actually take the time to research different colleges and see which one is the most affordable that meets all your needs. Personally, if I could go back in time, I would have finished my first 2 years at a local community college before completing my finance degree at a 4-year university. That would have saved me a lot of money, and I would have the exact same degree as all my other classmates. Also, I definitely don't believe that a more expensive university is necessarily better. In fact, I took a couple of community college courses back in high school, and I found that the education was just as good and sometimes even better than the university education I got because of the smaller class sizes compared to the giant auditoriums that you often find at universities. Talk about a good deal, right? Anyways, moving on to financial regret number 3 is taking on too much credit card debt. Now, on the broad spectrum of good and bad debt, credit card debt is like way off to the side of bad debt. And this is because credit cards often have very high interest rates that keep accumulating month after month. So how do you avoid credit card debt? Well, the simple way is to not buy anything that you couldn't already afford with cash or money that you have in your bank account. A credit card is really just a convenience to make purchases easier. It's not a way to borrow money for 30 days at a time. And always, always, always make the full payment on your statement balance instead of just the minimum payment. Because the minimum payment is kind of just like a scam to get you to pay interest every month, making you think that, oh, I'm paying down my debt, but really you're not, you're just paying tons of interest. Anyways, enough about that. Let's move on to common financial regret number 2, which is not saving an emergency fund. Too many people go through their lives thinking nothing bad will ever happen to them, until that one day happens where you suddenly need a large amount of money and you're not ready for it. And this is why starting an emergency fund is often the most common piece of financial advice that people give. So your emergency fund can be as simple as saving 3 to 6 months of expenses in a separate bank account. And nobody expects you to build this in a day or like a week. It's just something that you build up over time by putting away a portion of your paycheck into it until you have a nice emergency fund for a rainy day. And the number one financial regret that people have? Well, you might have guessed it. It's not saving early enough for retirement. You know, with the demise of pension plans, skyrocketing healthcare costs, and uncertainty over the future of Social Security, it's no wonder that people voted not saving enough for retirement as the number one most common financial regret they have. In fact, a recent study showed that 1 in 3 Americans don't even have $5,000 saved for retirement. Now that's not enough to live on, right? Thankfully, this is one of the easier regrets to avoid by opening and contributing to a 401k and an IRA as early as you can. You can check out my first video on investing your first $1,000 for a beginner's guide on investing for the first time. I'll link it right here and in the description below. And speaking of investing, why don't you invest in your financial future by clicking the subscribe button down below.